everyone. My name is Tiffany Monkman, and as Al has mentioned, I'm the director of the Central Registry Office with the Manitoba Métis Federation. I would first of all just like to take this opportunity to say thank you for allowing me to speak for you today. And I also would just like to say thank you to the elders and the veterans that are here in the room. My grandfather was a Métis veteran as well, so that means a lot to me, so I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge those in the room. I believe I have a PowerPoint presentation here. I believe there's a clicker. Perfect, thank you. We're going to learn how to use this. So I'm going to go over, at the Manitoba Métis Federation, the way that we currently do application for Métis citizenship, my apologies, and what the process is that we utilize in order to adhere to the national definition. So when I was asked to do this presentation, one of the first things I started thinking about is going back to the basics. And so I started thinking about this fundamental question of why is a Métis registry important? And so I just started thinking about some of the things that come with having a registry and why it's important to have. One of the things is in order to ascertain our Métis population. I know we've talked a lot today about historical documents. We've talked a lot today about documentation that we utilize for establishing who's a part of the Métis Nation. Our registry is a part of the way that we also document who our people are and how we figure out who our population is that is a part of the Métis Nation. It's a part of a responsible governance practice. So we've talked a lot now about self-government and how we're entering into this time of being recognized as the Métis government. As a part of our governance practice, we need to figure out who those people are that our government represents in order to establish who requires those services, et cetera. The other portion is about statistical data. So that connects directly to what our leadership does when they go out and they seek funding and they go out and they meet with governments. They need that statistical information in terms of who our nation represents and what the needs of the nation are. And the way for us to get that is by having a fulsome registry system. So today, the MMF's Citizenship and Harvester Registration System, they go hand in hand because they operate together and they look at the same criteria for establishing Métis ancestry. The Manitoba Métis Federation's Citizenship Registry System, it is an objectively verifiable system, so as Al had already alluded to, we use the criteria that's been established by the Métis National Council via the national definition. We require a genealogy from a recognized institute. In Manitoba, the institute that we recognize is the St. Boniface Historical Society. We have a really great partnership with them, and a part of the reason why we utilize them is because they have such a fulsome collection of archives. We know with great confidence that when we receive genealogical information from this institute, that we can feel confident that it's been sourced and it's actual verifiable historical documents. All of our approvals are based on sufficient historical documentation that connects ancestry back to the historical Métis Nation. And so those pieces essentially make up the objectively verifiable process. In 2015, this unfortunately predates me in the Central Registry Office, but there was a CSA Standards that was adopted by all of the governing members of the Métis National Council. So the Métis Identity Registry that was adopted, the MMF adheres to these CSA standards. Part of that is that the Métis national definition must be applied equally to all applicants without exception, and that's part of what we do in Manitoba. So if a person is able to establish that they have their ancestral connection, we apply that definition to them without exception. So we don't impede anybody from being able to access their rights regardless of whether or not it's somebody that somebody doesn't like or if it's a family feud or anything like that. It's applied equally to everybody. We've also implemented the indicia that came out of the Powley case. I know Professor O'Toole, he went over some of those pieces about the Powley case. And so we also, in our application process, take all three of those indicia into consideration as we go through the application. So those pieces, the self-identification, ancestral connection, and the community acceptance are all pieces directly in the application process. We also have an established appeals process This gives procedural fairness to anybody who may have been denied citizenship by the MMF and gives them a second opportunity to try to plead their claim. So this is just a quick little overview of how the actual process works currently in Manitoba. So step one down at the bottom here, an applicant would be responsible for obtaining their genealogical information. As I've already mentioned, they would go to the St. Boniface Historical Society. We have a partnership with them, and they're able to obtain their genealogical documents that way. They also are required to have a birth document, so they would require a long-form birth certificate or a baptismal. We're essentially looking for a document that would connect them to their parents so we can actually verify who their parental connections are. The next step is that an applicant would need to get a signature from one of our MMF locals. There's over 120 locals in Manitoba, and they're all affiliated with our different 7 regions. So they all have community connection ties. So an applicant has the ability to choose which local they would like to go to. They obtain that signature, and that's essentially the grassroots piece of the community acceptance. The next step, they would need to go to their MMF regional office. That's when they do their intake, they have their photo taken, they do all the pieces for actually obtaining the card, and they would also receive a signature from the regional vice president at that time as well. And so that's the next step of the community acceptance piece. So we've already had the self-identification by actually applying. They've done the community acceptance by having those signatures, and they're being welcomed into the community. And then we've also had the ancestral connection through the genealogical documents. The next step is that it would be uploaded to the Central Registry Home Office from any one of our 7 regions. We actually use an electronic database system that is a secure system that actually uploads everything directly to Home Office, and we're able to operate that way through a central location. So this is an overview of once the applications go to our regional offices. They are gone through by staff we have are called regional clerks. They go through the intake process with the applicant, make sure if the applicant has any questions, anything like that, they go through all the information with them. They would then upload it to our electronic database, and then it hits the central registry office. At that point, we have staff that are called data verification agents. They go through the entire application and ensure that they have all of the boxes checked, make sure they have all the signatures that are correct, all those historical documents that help to connect their ancestry, along with their genealogy. At this point, there might be times where there might be gaps that might need to be filled in if there's missing historical documentation. Our data verification agents also have the ability to do historical research. If there's a script document, perhaps a census document, something like that, that can be added into that file as well. So they also help add in if there's anything that's missing. At that point, then it's then handed off to our registrar, and that is the person that actually goes through the approvals process. So the registrar is somebody actually separate from me because they're actually a genealogist and they have the genealogical background to make those determinations. As you can see from the top here, the decision will either go one of 2 ways. So either the application will be accepted for Métis citizenship, it is approved, and a card is issued. We also, on this side, have an application if it's been rejected. So if that might be for the reasons that they don't connect to the historic Métis homeland, whatever the case might be, they would receive a rejection letter at that point that would also give in detail a briefing of the reasons for why the Central Registry Office has denied that application. And it also provides information for our appeals process should they wish to appeal that decision. So I'm just going to go into a little bit about the appeals tribunal because I think that this is also very important for the conversation we're having today. We have an appeals tribunal and it's managed separately from our central registry office. So once the central registry office has made a determination, if a citizen chooses to appeal that decision, they go to a separate entity, which is our appeals tribunal. And it's actually managed by a separate department and it's a separate entity from us. The tribunal is comprised of volunteer Métis citizens that have been nominated by their respective region, and they're citizens that might be known in the region for having knowledge in the community, knowledge in history. They also receive training on how to make these connections. Then the appellants are given an opportunity to provide further historical evidence should they wish. So if they want to bring forward any evidence that they think is relevant for their claim, they have that ability to do so and bring it forward to the appeals tribunal. And then based on the evidence provided during that process, the tribunal has the ability to either uphold or overturn the decision of the CRO. And should they decide to overturn that decision, the Central Registry Office would respect that decision. So just to give you a brief overview of what the MMF, where we're currently at, we currently have over 35,000 Métis citizens registered. Now, this is actually going through the confirmation process following the definition, the national definition that was established in 2002. So all of these 35,000 citizens that we have registered have gone through the process of having their genealogy done, have all the connecting ancestral documents. So if we were to open up anybody's file, it's an objectively verifiable file that they are a part of the Métis Nation. Excuse me. We have over 19,000 harvesters to date right now in Manitoba. And right now we're currently working on creating a 5-year strategic plan in order to enhance our operations. I think it's important to mention that because as we're creating our 5-year strategic plan at the MMF and how we're operating with our registry and citizenship, we need to take this conversation into consideration as well in terms of where the Métis Nation is going and how we're applying our national definition. Oh, sorry, I went backwards. So I wanted to circle back around to the national definition that was accepted in 2002. And it reads, Métis means a person who self-identifies as Métis, is distinct from other Aboriginal peoples, and is of historic Métis Nation ancestry, and who is accepted by the Métis Nation. I've included a picture of the Homeland map in here as well, because this definition was adopted in 2002, and the MMF, we have been operating using the map in the left-hand corner for our approvals process. So everybody that has gone through our process fits within that definition of Métis, along with fitting in that map of the Homeland. I did want to touch a little bit on this as well, because one of the issues that we're currently seeing at the MMF with our registry that applies to this conversation is these new historical communities that have been coming out of Ontario. Right now, we're seeing an influx of people that have applied in Manitoba from areas such as Mattawa, Penetanguishene, these areas that we haven't recognized to date, and they've gone through our appeals tribunal process because they've been denied citizenship because they don't connect that ancestry to the Red River. And the appeals tribunal has upheld our decision, stating that no, those people are not a part of the nation. And we have since got wind that there's a lot of those people that have gone to MNO and they have received cards now since, because those people have actually come back to us at the MMF and have essentially said, what are you guys doing? Because I was able to get a card in Ontario, but I was denied by you twice. So this is now creating a little bit of a issue for us in terms of how this definition is applied, because it does seem that the definition has changed by the acceptance of these communities. I'm not here to speak on whether or not it's appropriate to do the research on those communities or if they should be accepted or not, but it definitely does allude to the fact that our definition is effectively changed because it's no longer being consistently applied across the nation. So I'm going to stop there and leave it because I know that we want to have some dialogue as well. And so I'm going to hand it over and leave it there. Thank you.